Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is your host, Liddy Paul and Joel Simmons, back for another Coffee with Liddy and Joel. And we are absolutely excited this series. We've been talking with you about the foundational rules, and there's five of them. The first lesson that we brought to you was look the person in the eyes. Last week, we talked about keep a calm voice, keep a calm face and a calm body. And today we are going to be jumping into the subject of say yes or disagree appropriately. So I'm really excited about this. But before we go any further, I want to make sure that you go to Liddy Paul's YouTube channel, All About Family with Liddy Paul, and that you hit the subscribe button and that you hit the notification bell so you know when she's coming on. Also, check me out on the Tenacity Foundation YouTube channel, and I want you to subscribe there and also hit the notification bell. All right, without further ado, Liddy, where are we? Where are we doing? How are we going to get to say yes or disagree appropriately?
Yes, hi Joe, hi everyone. So this part is very important, and all those steps are part of teaching self-governance. I had the pleasure to talk with Nicolene Peck. She's the one who highlight those steps, and I'm telling you, those steps are working, especially with little ones. And she was telling me that do you teach your child to say yes or to disagree appropriately? And I said to her, wait, what do you mean disagree appropriately? It's either you doing what I say or you doing what I say. There is no disagree appropriately. And she said, no, you need to give that option to your child, and your child needs to um to 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 um to use his or her words to explain what is going on. Let me explain further. Many children, especially when they are little, when they don't want to do something, what do? They don't do it.
Right.
They just don't do it. Even teenagers, they just don't do it. They ignore you, and it's bad habit. We cannot model that unhealthy habit to our children. We need to acknowledge, and that's why it's important. We need to acknowledge, and we need also to understand that we can agree to disagree. And this is why you teach your child at an early age. Remember, the first thing is to look at the person in the eye. So now you said, okay, I see you and I hear you. I will stay calm, because even though you're telling me things that I do not agree, I will show you that I respect you and that I want a healthy relationship.
Right.
Now, whatever you are telling me, if I agree, I will tell you. Because sometimes when we're going to say something to our kids, we're not going to let them to acknowledge. It's like yes or no. Sometimes the person will just do it. No, stop and have that. I would say that window where the person can agree with you. So that, for example, if I say, "Can you please give me that paper?" A paper. The person should say, "Oh yes, this paper. Yes, I want to give it to you." So now the person acknowledge, because sometimes people are doing things they have no idea what they're doing it, why they are doing it, when they should do it. It's like all over the place. You're telling things to people, but people have no idea about what it is. But now when you agree, you can process that information about, oh, the paper, what paper? Do I really want to take the paper? Okay, let me think about it. What are my options? Because now you can see the options, and then if you do not agree, you can say, ah, that paper, I should not take that paper. Even though the person asked me for it, but I don't want to do it. Then you need to disagree appropriately. So now you're not going to ignore the person. You're not going to scream like, "What are you talking about?" You're not going to act like that, but you're going to disagree appropriately. And to disagree appropriately, the first thing is always to acknowledge, oh, you want the paper, but that paper is not supposed to be touched. So I can either make you a copy, or I might ask permission. So now you disagree, you have that conversation, but at least the person know that you acknowledge and you understood the question, because most of the time people just ignore you and you're like, no, but Is the person serious? I am talking to someone, or what's going on? Because people don't know how to disagree appropriately. So the sooner you teach that to your child, the better. And as I love to say, it's work for personal life and professional life.
Mm, yeah, I love it. I love it. Because this it's very important to be able to disagree appropriately. I think that's extremely important. So I noticed that children tend to learn the word no really quickly. And I think that that's just like a parent shortcut. It's like, hey, don't touch the coffee. You were speaking with your child when you said don't touch the coffee. That's excellent. Don't touch the coffee. The coffee is hot. Don't touch the stove. The stove is hot. But after we are worn on for so long and it's difficult, so a child may come up that 10th, 100th, 1,000th time to get that same cup of coffee, over the next few years. And all of a sudden you're just like, no, 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 no. I said no. And you can see how the frustration just begins to build inside of parents. I mean, most of the time when frustration comes, it is simply because we just had enough. We lost touch with being a calm bodied, calm face, calm toned individual that can look someone in the eye. And we are just hands in the air. I don't care what anybody thinks or says. Lord, give me this one right now because I'm about to do this. What do
Yes,
you think about
let
that?
me interject. You know why? Because as adult, we don't know how to disagree. We don't know how to do that. When something happened, for example, you are at the supermarket and something happened, somebody cut you off, something happened. What are you going to do? You're just going to look at the person, but you're not going to say anything because you don't know how the person will react. Most of the time, as individual, we don't know how to disagree appropriately with one another. So now when the child comes, we're not going to take time because to disagree appropriately, it takes time. It takes a lot of conversation and explanation. And we don't have time for that. We just want the person to do whatever we said. It's like, no, it's closed. For example, you go to a store, the person, the cashier will say, we don't have it. And then when you say why, the person will roll their eyes like, why are you asking me? All of that. And this is just a question. How come we cannot disagree appropriately? How we cannot take the time to agree to disagree? I just want to understand. I just want to make sure that I know all my options. And for about the cup of coffee, is that now when you say to your child, don't touch, and the child said no, now you have to say to the child, yes, but this is not the step. The step is you need to acknowledge because sometimes the child didn't hear, didn't understand. Sometimes people don't understand the vocabulary and the definition of certain words. So now you say cup of coffee, the child say no, but does he really know what he's saying no to? So that's why when you stop and the person needs to acknowledge, now the child will say, okay, this cup of coffee, what is cup of coffee? Is it the big one or what is it? So now you can have that conversation and you're going to be shocked to see that the child might agree that, yeah, I don't want to touch it, but because the vocabulary, the definition was not there, he just said no.
I love it. I love it because this is a very important part of this piece of the foundational rules. To be able to disagree appropriately. Not just to be able to say yes, but to be able to disagree appropriately is probably the more difficult part of this. It's easy. I feel like it's easy for a parent or for a child to say yes to all things that they want to do. Now, if they just have an attitude, then people at that point in time may say no just to get underneath, either or skin. But generally speaking, if they want to do it, they will say yes. On the other hand, when they don't want to do it or they don't feel they need to do it, that's when it's time for good communication. I feel like as a parent, these three things we need to practice. One of them is being intentional. Know that what you are doing is going to affect your child, and then plan to do what you need to do to affect them in the most positive way. So when you get to that 1000th time, I know I'm being over exaggerated, but when you get to that 1000th time, take a deep breath and then say, please don't touch the coffee because it's hot and I don't want it to harm you. I don't want it to burn you. I don't want to take a chance or whatever the reason is. So open that dialogue. We have these children with us until they're 18 or so, give or take a year, right? So that's the long commitment, is to ensure that this child blossoms. The next thing is courageousness, because I love your example, Liddy. I love your example of us as parents being cut off or being in a supermarket and then not saying something, or when we do say something, it's, you're rolling your neck, you got your eyes all over the place, and the kids are watching, or dad's bowing up, he's getting ready to fight, over, some soap and some eggs, because he just doesn't want to be the last guy in the line when he's waited for a half hour. So kids are watching that. And again, going back to last week, they are monitoring our behavior, what we are doing. The whole idea of do what I say, not what I do, that's just a fallacy. The last thing is integrity. Keep strong integrity. It's just so important because our children are watching even when we don't believe they are. So as long as we keep that honesty and that integrity in our heart and our mind, and we're choosing the right thing and we're helping our kids out, I believe that that will give us the added advantage that they learn how to disagree appropriately. I love it.
Yes, definitely. And I will put a little, a bemol. We say that in French. Bemol, that means that, like a little, subtitle is that unfortunately, sometimes when the person doesn't want to agree with you, the person will just need to live with the consequences. For example, many children will say that my mom said no and I touch it. I got burned and now I'm not touching it anymore. But sometimes to prevent that to our children, we need to take the time to explain and to make sure that the person understand, because many times we go into situation that we had no business into going into because we didn't understand. We thought that it was a good idea, but it was not. Why? Because we didn't understand what was it, because we could not acknowledge exactly. Okay, you asked me to go there and to do what? Do you see? We were just saying, okay, yes, I'm doing it, and then in front of the situation, we're like, what? It was that? No, I don't want to do that. And then we don't know how to disagree appropriately. And now it's too late, especially for teenager. It's too late, and we're in a situation, and then we say, oh, wrong day at the wrong location. And this is what we want to avoid. When you teach your child to disagree appropriately, you're going to see that relationship with teachers will be better, with peers will be better, because now your child will not be a follower, but will be leading, because now the child can say, okay, you mentioned that, I don't want to do that, and why are my reason. And then what is important is those skills will be with your child. As you said, the child will be able to build on that and will have that integrity, and the child will be able to now to influence others, because when you know how to disagree appropriately, you can now manage situations, and when you can manage situation, you can manage people, and when you can manage people, you can influence them and change the world. And this is what we want for
Mm.
our children. So tell me one more thing, Joel, and in the meantime, comment, tell us in the chat, how do you think about that? Do you disagree appropriately, or do you just roll your eyes?
I love it. Do you disagree appropriately or do you just roll your eyes? I love it, Lydia. And I think once again, that was a good way to end this segment because, you know, I love how you cascaded that last comment. And in the end, it's like helping your child will eventually help a family, their family, your family, then their job workspace, as a civilian in a neighborhood, changing the world. I think it's
Yes.
beautiful. Let's change the world, y'all. one child at
Yes.
a time. And we'll start with our own. I love it. Have a wonderful night, Liddy. I enjoyed you. Everybody else, take care.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and see you next week.